Call the council meeting to order. Motion for the agenda, please. Campbell and Reach. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Declaration of pecuniary interest, if any.
On the land transfer later on in the meeting, I'll stepping aside.
Okay. You got that? Okay, thank you. For the Reeves report, that I'll mention that the Musical Muskrat Festival is starting their planning for the 2014 event, and that there will be a meeting held the 27th of January at 7 p.m. in the museum. And if you know of anybody that would be interested in helping with the committee, just attending at that meeting would be a great way of getting things accomplished. And a reminder that the Homecoming 2014 gear and tickets will be available at the merchandise store, and that to enter through the Alice Munro Garden, and the store will be open Wednesday evening starting the 5th of February between 6:30 and 8. Okay. Reading the minutes of the previous meeting. McGowan and Reach. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Deputations. Shauna Barnum is here from representing the Clinton Hospital Foundation. Welcome, Shauna.
Thank you. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Councillors and staff, thank you for the time on this evening's agenda. Some of you may know who I am, but for those that don't know who I am, I'm Shauna Barnum. I'm a director on the Clinton Public Hospital Foundation Board. This year is another exciting year for the board as we are gearing up to host our gala event. The letter in your council package outlines that our event will be held on Saturday, June the 14th at the Central Huron Community Complex. The theme this year is A Night in Paris. It is an evening filled with elegance, an abundance of food, live and silent auction items, along with entertainment. We are encouraging individuals and groups to support this event by way of sponsorship, purchasing a table, or individual tickets. This year, Clinton Public Hospital will become the Enhanced Cataract Services site for Huron and Perth counties. Enhanced Cataract Services will be facilitated out of the Clinton site, meaning additional equipment is required to ensure efficient patient flow. The equipment is very expensive, which is certainly no surprise to any of us. And without the support of the community, it becomes very challenging to deliver effective, efficient medical services. The Clinton Public Hospital Foundation has been very fortunate with the support from municipalities surrounding Central Huron. They have shared their medical stories of appreciation, which Clinton Public Hospital provides to the residents of this area. In the past, these municipalities have contributed, whether they have a hospital in their municipality or not, as it is their feeling that medical services are important to their ratepayers, especially when they don't have to drive great distances. The Enhanced Cataract Services will add to the list of local services which are so important to the residents of this county. The residents of North Huron do use the services at Clinton Public Hospital, specifically the outpatient services offered. And it is our hope that you will consider supporting the Clinton Public Hospital Foundation as you move forward with establishing this year's budget. Please join us at this outstanding night as the gala truly demonstrates how the residents of this area show their appreciation for the wonderful health care we are so fortunate to have, which we all call home. I will leave you with a sponsorship form and my contact information should you have any questions in the future, or if you have questions now. I will also be leaving you our sponsorship levels that others have donated in the past to sponsor. So I'm here to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Is there any questions or?
just wonder, do you have any information or statistical data based on projections for once this becomes a regional, so to speak, cataract hub, how many patients you'll be running through?
I'm not certain how many they'll be running through, but I believe they do 17 surgeries a day. And right now, one of the foundation's goals is to purchase the cataract chairs. Being a board member, I didn't know there were specific chairs for a cataract surgery, but they need 6 in order to keep things flowing so the nurses can prep for one, the next patient can be in, and so on. And each of these chairs is in excess of $10,000 each. And the cataract services are moving to Clinton from Stratford, so it will be the hub. I'm not saying that there won't be any cataract services in Stratford, but we are, out of the HPHA, we are going to be the site for cataract services, and with the aging population that we have in this area, it's quite a predominant outpatient service that we provide. So the surrounding municipalities do come. It seems like each of the hospitals are specializing in different ways, and I think it's best that we all work together to provide the services to the taxpayers.
Very good.
Jim?
Do you have any numbers of how many people would be coming from our municipality to the hospital? Like you said,
There's several, yeah, and there's even further, further as you head north, coming just from even the catchment area of Grey, Bruce County, the edges of there, because oftentimes Kitchener can't service as quick as what we can via the specialists that we have. I can get those numbers for you, though, if you'd like.
oh, I just wondered if you do just what.
Yeah, I don't exactly know, but I do know that there are a number of people that couldn't get doctors in the Wingham area that do doctor, in the Clinton area, so they do use the services of the Clinton Hospital. Hence, I think we're going to this council to seek some sort of support, if at all possible.
If that's all the questions, thank you very much for your presentation, and we will have to look to see what happens, whether we do it municipally or out of our own pockets.
That's right.
I know that I didn't expect to help the the auction 2 years ago as much as I did,
Yeah.
but then I ended up buying a Wayne Gretzky picture.
Perfect.
So that, yes, I'm sure there will be, one way or another, there will be money from North Huron coming to help support that, because we do have people that depend on the Clinton Public Hospital.
Yeah, I'll just mention quickly that the tickets are $75 each. The tables are set in tables of 10, so if you could get a group together, that's another way of helping support it. The big key is to remember your ticket, because we've had people buy them like a company, and they put it in, I don't know, let's say Sparlings or whatever, the municipality, and they give the tickets out, and then when they go to bid, it goes under Sparlings or the municipality's number, which is wonderful for the person who's purchased it, but it's not so wonderful for the person who got these 10 tickets together. So if you could bring your ticket, it's the $45 tax receipt, it's your bidder number, it's your table identifier, it's your entry into the event. So it's really important that you keep the ticket. So that I will end my presentation on that note. And could I give my sponsorship form as such to someone?
Just give it to Gary.
Okay.
That's great.
Great. Thanks again.
Just give it to the people.
Actually, filling the people in on that information was some of the most important part of your presentation.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving to business arising from previous minutes. Is there anything? Rob?
There's an error in the minutes. I'll have to look it up once I get going here. Sorry about that. There's a slight error in the minutes for the last meeting.
Okay. health and safety, just as it's put forward.
Yeah, we have our quarterly meeting next Thursday.
Okay. Moving to Director of Corporate Services, Deputy Clerk, Kathy.
I was just looking for your meeting allowances at the end of January, but if you want to wait and hand them in after our Thursday meeting, that's great too.
Okay, that's good. Moving to the Utility Department, is there anything going?
No, actually, the report is pretty much as stands. Well 3, the new pump is in, and it actually, we got the results back from the vacuum testing, and it's in service, so, and it's working very well, better than we expected actually. Very risky drive, gives you a lot of options as far as operation wise. And just working on the wing and wastewater report, the annual report stage. Hopefully by the end of the month I'll have them ready.
Okay, thanks, Don. Moving to,
I'd make a motion to accept Don's report.
yeah, McGowan and Bailey. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Recreation and facilities?
So there's 2 items. First of all, I just wanted to talk about was the Family Funapalooza Winter Luge-a-thon event. And the flyer is in your council package, and I had meant to bring other additional color copies. We haven't received those from the printers yet. It truly is done right in North Huron, this family event. Activities happen in Blythe, the Belgrade Community Center, and also in Wingham. It happens over 2 days. The activities are all sponsored by our Legions, our Knights of Columbus. All of those sponsors are along the bottom, the Belgrade Kinsmen, Lions Clubs, the Legions. All of those groups are participating by sponsoring one of the activities that you see on the flyer. And by being able to do that, admission is free to these families, and all we ask that they bring is a donation to the North Huron Food Share. So not only do you get to spend the day with your family, or 2 days, in all sorts of free activities and events, you will also be able to be giving back to the community food share. I think the only events that we charge for is the actual breakfast and things like that, where you're getting fed. So it's, and all of the money stays in the community. So it's really done right in North Huron. We're very proud of this event. So if there's any questions, I'm here to answer them. But I wanted to bring that to your attention as one of our upcoming North Huron events. Any questions about that? No? Okay. So the next item is a report on the Memorial Hall Facility Condition Assessment. And I provided here a very brief summary of the report. Just for your awareness, this is the report, if anybody would like to dive in. And then we also have the drawings from our consultant. Now, these are not the Huron Geomatics, which would be to the millimeter of the millimeter drawing. These are building schematics, which help us start the planning and lay out the building for us. We have had no building plan since all of the renovations over, I don't know, the past 100 years. So we're excited to have this report done. In general, we're pleased to report that the building, for its age, is in good condition. Some of the items that we were aware, like the roof leaks, the flat roofs, were confirmed in this report. And the HVAC units are reaching the end of their life cycle. But overall, you know, we didn't discover foundation issues or huge cracks in the mortar of the bricks. The windows are not falling out of the building. Overall, the building is in good condition. But as many of you have been in the building, you will be able to attest that as you walk through the building, some of the fixtures are at the end of their life cycle. So yes, the taps work and the sink holds water, but it's a 23 or 25-year-old sink, and it really does need to be upgraded. So through the 2014-2019 campaign project, we're excited to be part of the project to look into renovations at Memorial Hall, which will not only take care of the issues that have been brought forward in this facility condition report, as far as the roofs, the HVAC, and some other smaller items that are highlighted. It's our opportunity to also look at the fixtures, the auditorium, the theater lighting and technical pieces of the building, and the lower hall, which the kitchen is an example of us trying to preserve something, I think, but it definitely needs upgraded. If you've been in the kitchen, you'll know what I mean. I think it's the original cupboards. So we're looking forward to refurbishing, refinishing, renovating, and this is a big piece of that puzzle to know where we're going forward, so we know what pieces need attention and where some of the renovation budget needs to be focused. Within the report is also a conservation plan, and it's quite a detailed report. It talks about the history of Memorial Hall, the key features that are important if we are, and it is recommending that we designate this building, which has never been done under the Ontario Heritage Act, and then the features that make that building unique to its heritage are outlined, and then it goes through in the report explaining what and how each item should be handled, whether it's going to be restored, replaced, or how that should be, how that conservation plan should work. Some of the limitations of the report is that it was what they could see. They were lifting, ceiling tiles, but they weren't taking down drywall to take a look at the structure and behind the walls. So that just make sure everybody's aware of that. So I'm sharing this brief report with council, and as I said, I can email out pieces of it or all of it if anybody wishes. It is going to be shared with the 2014-2019 campaign and the renovation committee, which is a subcommittee of that group, and they're going to digest it and take a look at how this is going to work into their future plans. I think that's it, unless Gary, you have anything else to share. I know you've been part of the board 2019 executive committee.
That's good.
Okay.
Do we need any motions?
No, I don't think so. This is,
That's all information.
it's an FYI. Yeah, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the report or the project.
Archie?
Just one, you speak in the report about, the flat roof needing to be replaced and that was sort of a known. How well were they able to investigate, I don't know what the attic's like in the building, look for any kind of water damage or anything like that?
Well, the roof is not leaking where there is the attic over the metal peaked roof, so that is not our issue. The issue is over the flat roofs, and you can basically see right up to the bed of the roof, it's all, and then to the roof above. So there was no structural damage that they could see. However, the roof is, it pours in. Yeah. And we have a very extensive, the part of the report that was done on the roof was completed by Ontario Roof Consultants and then given to work into this report. So I have a lot of confidence in the breakdown of all the different roofs and how they were assessed. They took samples of the roof to see what the age and thickness and insulation factors were and stuff in that report.
Rob?
I just wanted to comment on the heritage designation. I know it's a controversial matter because there are a lot of people who feel that it doesn't provide an advantage and could provide some disadvantages. I think it's important in this case because there's a constant drive to turn the Memorial Hall into something else. Notably that it's a theater, which it isn't. It's a cenotaph, and that's its main function. And I think there's a danger over time of that sort of knowledge of the building and sense of the building may disappear. Maybe future councils, maybe future theater boards, maybe who knows what, might drift away in a wrong direction. So I really strongly recommend that we go for a heritage designation on the building.
Just in reply to that, I want to thank you, Brock. I know that you and your wife provided extensive research and history on the building to our consultant, which was very helpful. And I'll email you the section on the heritage because I think you'll be very pleased with the way that it was captured as well as the go-forward recommendations. And if you feel that we've missed the mark, I really appreciate your feedback on that. So I'll definitely forward you that section.
I'd like to see it as well.
The heritage section?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Dave?
The 8th, okay.
Might as
How about
well
all of
go
council?
down.
Okay.
We could share.
Okay.
Question, is there, if we move this building over under the Ontario Heritage Act, are there grants and funds available for the restoration and maintenance of the building available for that, or through that designation?
I'm not aware of any through the designation any longer, because that was sort of an Ontario initiative that I think kind of in the mid-90s.
Black Act.
Died, the Black Acts all died, yeah.
Yeah, however, having said that, there are other things like Trillium and other grants that look for heritage as an important piece of their driving force for their funding. So I can't say for certain, but I also know that there, and maybe you can share more of the memorial part of Memorial Hall. It's significant, and I'm trying to remember, it's not National Defense, but it is a Heritage Memorial Fund that they're going to try and tap into, which I believe is a federal fund, for more that it's a memorial. And that's an important part of its heritage designation. But if anyone is aware of other funding, they are actively seeking it. So if anyone has any more information on that, I'd be happy to hear it.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. And if that's all the questions. Okay, Sally should be here soon, so we will just wait on her to be here. Moving forward to point 2, Maitland Valley Conservation Authority. We need to make an appointment for a board member for the board and Maitland Source Protection.
We were just, I think we already did that through the appointments bylaw we passed a meeting or 2 ago. I think that appointee was already on that list, unless I'm wrong. Am I wrong, Ken?
We haven't passed the
It hasn't been passed
We
yet?
just passed the statutory officials bylaw.
Maybe it's
Statutory officials.
Well, I'd make a motion that we reappoint Jim Campbell.
McGowan and Reach. Any discussion? Are you willing?
Doesn't matter.
It is a good committee to sit on.
Don't think that. All in favor of the motion? Carried. Now it's official, Jim. And the Wingham BIA for redecorative lights, council. Donna or Connie, some background for the BIA. The BIA towards decorative
Sure,
lights.
I can give you a little bit of background.
Thank you.
As you know, the Wingham BIA, since the Main Street reconstruction was done, have been looking at new Christmas lights. And actually what they have come up with is something that is actually, they've steered away from Christmas and they've gone to a Wingham. Kind of taking the Wingham logo and had a classic display to create a Wingham type light that can have a longer life, obviously, than the Christmas season. So over the next couple of years, the Wingham BIA is hoping to get those installed on Main Street, and they will be doing a series of fundraising and coming up with some money in their budget. And there has actually been, as you know, the last couple of years with barbecues and stuff, through the Wingham BIA, they have put a little bit of money to away for these lights. But they wanted you to be aware that, this is a priority project of theirs, and what they may be doing is coming to the municipality to see if the municipality would loan them the money so that they, and probably make a contribution towards the lights, and so then over the next couple of years, through their fundraising and through their levy, they will pay that back. So, but there is no numbers, I believe, that the letter that came forward, it was just kind of an FYI. They'd like you to just be aware of that.
Any questions or comments? But I think this is something that's coming forward, and that I can really see the BIA working through that, and maybe getting a number of good donations to help out, as seeing that it might be a very good thing to get done. So I think we'll just drive on from that. Brock?
Reeve, I wonder if we could go back to the minutes of the January
Okay.
13 meeting. I found the error. It's on page 7. This was the discussion from the gallery. Someone raised the question of financial projections. Trevor was the person who raised it. It's written in here as fire projections. And I think that should be changed, because it was a very important point that Trevor was bringing up. It's right near the top of the page.
That's taken care of, huh? Moving to council information and the correspondence. Any comments on finance and treasury, or the Dave Munsey Memorial Fund is point 2? Councilor Bailey.
For the accounts payable on page 2, there's a few here, just a question about. One would be the BM Ross bill. There's Josephine Street, it says RICO, and then it kind of disappears for $700. Then there's a bridge inspection, just wondering which bridge that was. Then I see industrial land for $4,500, I'm curious, and Willis proposal for $1,000. Can somebody explain to me why we spent that money on those things? You'll notice I left one out.
Okay, you can start.
Sure, if I may,
Yes.
on the bridge, BM Ross, that was for 11 bridges that we have.
11?
Yeah.
Wasn't a bridge in particular.
It wasn't one in particular, no. It was something that was raised at council maybe 3 meetings ago that we, something that we have to do.
Okay.
The one on Josephine, I'm not sure if there has been a few deficiencies on Josephine, and I don't know if that bill, that's what it's to do with.
Okay.
For the 2 BM Ross bills.
And then the industrial land for $4,500. Oh, that's not mine. Go ahead, Gary, I'm sorry.
That's the bill from BM Ross regarding the servicing discussions between North Huron and Morris Trinidad.
Ongoing discussions?
There was a meeting last fall, plus several meetings at the staff level. And that, I should note that that bill will be split between the 2 municipalities. So we will be reimbursed for half of that by Morris Trinidad.
The final one's just that Willis property for $1,200, just not sure what we're doing there.
I believe that is to do, that's regarding consulting fees for the residential subdivision proposal on the Willis lands.
Okay.
The Wingham A2A, Wingham Creek residential subdivision proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Brock?
Also on accounts, there's an item on page, I should give you the check number, I guess. Check number is 036629, Fire Department, WSIB. I think I know what that is about, but it's, I guess, the compensation for past work with the Blythe Fire Department.
Donna?
So back when the fire departments disbanded in 2009, prior to that, the municipality was on Schedule 2 with WSIB. And so unfortunately, just before the fire boards disbanded, we did have a claim under WSIB. So
So it's taken a few years to settle that, and actually the claim isn't closed at this time yet. They never really close a claim under WSIB Schedule 2. So, but enough time has passed, and from speaking with our fire chief and others, it doesn't appear that there's any logical reason to hold on to those funds any longer. So we are dispersing that based on the percentages that they were contributed, plus interest in the amount of up until December 31st, 2013.
Well, that's good. Thanks, Don.
Okay.
Couple more here. On page 10, we have a check sent out for $64 to Rona Hodgins. It says bell tower screening. Would that not be part of the contract that we're under for those guys to fix that? Why is the town paying for that?
So under the contract, the mesh that keeps the birds out. So the roof mesh was included in the project, but the side meshes, we had anticipated that we might be able to reuse them, but when we took them off, they were not in great condition. So we rebuilt those within our department. That's the parts to do that. And so they're going to put them back in for us when they're up there, but we just kind of compromised on that. It wasn't included in the work.
If I can just go to the next page, page 11, for Thor Damon. It says Town Hall Exterior Restoration, $2,457, along with the Blythe Hall. Does that mean, is that the final check for Thor for the Town Hall?
I'm sorry, I'm not meaning to hesitate.
No,
We
okay.
will need to bring him, we will need to bring him up for one more final sign-off deficiency check-off. We've done most of it, but as you can see, they're still finishing some bell tower work. We have one deficiency list that they're working for. So I anticipate one more invoice from his consulting firm.
And that all stays under the contract we have. It was covered under the contract we have, right?
It's all in the expenses we had approved, yes.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, just going back to that one again, thorough, that, the Blythe Community Hall assessment, so that's complete, he's done with that now.
Yes, the work that we, as North Huron, had hired him to do the consulting on this report. And within that are all the engineering fees and everything. That is now complete. That is the final sign up on that. Unless we hire him to do more, that's it for that contract.
Is there anything else that council wants to bring forward? Does somebody want to receive, read, and file?
Read and file.
And that includes correspondence?
Yes.
Okay. From Campbell and McGowan. All in favor? Carried. Anybody have anything with committee reports? Okay. It'll be approximately another 15 minutes before Sally can be here, so that we'll move to, James?
On the Dave Mounsey Memorial Fund, they're looking for people names to go forth for that, right?
Yes.
Well, I just wondered if it's something that we should be looking at.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know of any names, but it's something that sometimes we overlook, and there is people that are worthy of some of these awards.
there's no question that there's all kinds of people probably worthy within our municipality, but
It would be in order, Your Worship. I think if we can send the clerk some names, I can think of a couple off the top of my head that he could submit.
okay.
And the other two wards could do the same.
And that's the same for all of the councillors, if you think of any possible nominations that you would like forward to the township office. Brock?
I just have a request about the fees bylaw. In the printout that we got with the minutes, partial pages are missing, like they were put on the screen wrong way too, and I would like to get a copy of the fees for the recreation program. They were the ones that were off printing, you really can't read them. Maybe other councillors would like to have that as well.
Councillor Bailey?
The fees bylaw too, I was wondering if we could maybe look at that marriage certificate, maybe reduce it by 50% maybe, but just for this year or something? Oh, conflict of interest, I'm sorry.
Should be double.
Okay. Okay, ready for the bylaw 4? Okay, that Gary will bring some more information forward. But bylaw number 4, 2014, being a bylaw to repeal parts, pardon me, of a deeming bylaw number 1915 of 1987 in the Wingham Ward in the township of North Huron. Do you want to bring that forward now, or?
Yes, please.
Okay, Gary.
Just some background on this deeming bylaw. I provided council with a copy of a reference plan that was deposited at the registry office in August of 2008. That will help to shed some light on this, on bylaw number 4 and bylaw number 5. Just some background. This entire piece of land was subdivided by a plan of subdivision that was registered in 1979. The municipality, which was the town of Wingham then, passed and registered a bylaw in 1987 that deemed many of the lots, excuse me, the municipality passed and registered a bylaw in 1987 that deemed many of the lots not to be lots on a plan of subdivision in order to control development until services could be provided. In 1995, a second bylaw was passed and registered, which repealed the deeming bylaw with regard to most of the lots that were covered by the 1987 bylaw. The effect was that those lots became lots on a plan of subdivision again. If we look at lot 30 and 31, these were not included in the 1995 bylaw. They may have expected, they being council, may have expected at that time that one large house would be built in the middle of the two lots. That would require the two lots be deemed in order to comply with the zoning bylaw. The current owners and the township want to repeal the deeming bylaw against lots 30 and 31 so that each lots will be separate. This is the same process as the 1995 bylaw. Then, under bylaw number 5, we're proposing to add the pieces of the closed traffic circle on Catherine Street. This will create two lots of similar size to the neighboring lots. I'm sure that's helpful or not, but that's the background on the deeming bylaw. Why we're proposing to repeal the deeming bylaw.
Question or?
Question. So these, the part 4 and part 5 then become part of lot 30 and lot 31?
That's correct, and that would take effect as a result of bylaw number 5, or at least that would initiate the process to allow that to happen. Right now, the owners of lots 30 and 31 legally do not have access to their properties.
Okay. Now, what about part 6 and part 3? Are they already?
This bylaw number 5, is proposing to convey just parts 4, 5, and 6. At some point, we will be dealing with parts 1, 2, and 3 on this reference plan.
Okay.
But for now, we're just dealing with parts 4, 5, and 6. And we're hopeful that by doing this now, that it will help to facilitate development on lot 30 and 31, and which are both vacant parcels of land. Part 6 would become part of lot 29, and there is a new house that was built on that parcel this past year. So that would clean up that title.
Moving.
First, second, or third?
And McGowan, and Bogdan seconding. Any further questions? Ray?
So then, part 1 would be someday go to lot 32, is that right?
That's correct.
And the same way with part 2?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Part 1, part 2, and part 3, to clean up the title and to correct the title, these parts need to be conveyed to those property owners.
Do we have development agreements for those, though, or no?
As you know, there have been discussions with the owners of lot 30 and 31 about the next steps to have those properties developed. This is one part of that process, but there's responsibilities on the part of the property owner to request and services need to be paid for it.
So this is cleaning up part 4, 5, and 6. So if there's no questions, all in favor of bylaw number 4? Carried. Bylaw number 5, 2014, being a bylaw to authorize the sale of parts lot 29, 30, and 31. Plan 451, being parts 4, 5, and 6. Plan 22R 5569 in the Wingham Ward in the Township of North Huron.
For second, third.
Reach and Campbell. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Just a further note on parts 4 and part 5. Development cannot occur on lot 30 or 31 until this matter is corrected. So with the passage of this bylaw, you've given authority to have the legal documentation registered on title, so that these parcels of land can be conveyed to those property owners, which will help to facilitate development on those 2 pieces of land. And as we're coming into the spring building season, and given the interest in building lots in Wingham, because there aren't that many right now, that we're hoping that we'll see some houses on those 2 lots sometime this year.
Because of various fees, question further. Does council want to proceed with bylaw number 7, amending various fees, or do you want to clear the printout first? Okay. So that we will bring bylaw 7 back at the next meeting, when we have a clear schedule. Okay.
Is it the rec fees that you're, is that the only fees you haven't got a clear schedule of? Because I don't see what you have. Is that the only one that's of concern?
It's a whole number of pages, many
In
pages
the rec fees.
are wide.
Right, so the rec fees were brought forward to council in November and were presented and passed at that time because we needed to implement our fee schedule in January.
I'm not
Right.
questioning the fees, I just want a printout so I can refer
Okay.
to it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's first meeting of February.
I got the same.
okay.
Okay. Council reports and inquiries. Anything?
Rich, I wondered if Mr. Long would be willing to give us an update on Dollarama. I know they're making great headway and having the plans of opening sometime in February, I think is what they're shooting for. But I wondered if you could give us the update, because it is good news for the community.
Okay, thank you. I can confirm that I've had discussions with the owner of the property, Canadian Commercial, and they confirmed that Dollarama are scheduled to occupy the premises this month or next month. I understand that they are currently advertising for a store manager, but they've indicated to me that they're looking at a January or February occupancy. I know that there have been company employees or contractors in the building doing some work on the windows and lighting and so on.
Nothing else? Any questions from council? Okay. Are you ready to go with clerk administrator's report then?
Sure thing, thanks. Just wanted to note that further to our last council meeting, I just wanted to confirm that Phil Beard from the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority will be appearing at the February 3rd council meeting as a delegation to speak to the 2014 budget and to answer council questions and queries about the levy. So it's February 3rd. Also, just a reminder of the draft, just a reminder of the budget meeting this Thursday to consider the draft budget for 2014. Also wanted to mention that the 14-19 committee wanted to meet with council sometime in mid to late February to update you on the campaign, their fundraising, as well as to discuss an investment from North Huron. Looking at possible dates including Monday, February 10th, Wednesday, February 12th, and Thursday, February 12th. This would be a special meeting of council, and wondered if I could get some input from council as to your availability for those dates. February 10th and February 12th, those would be the preferences. Preferred dates, February 20th would be back.
Councilor Bailey?
Just a curious question here. Why would that delegation not be part of our council meeting? It's going to be extremely long. I know we have a 10-minute limit.
They have requested additional time. As you know, our procedural bylaw for council meetings limits the time of delegations to about 10 minutes. They have requested additional time. Given the scope and magnitude of the campaign and the project, it was felt that additional time would be warranted to answer questions from the community as well as council. Thank you.
So, will this be an evening meeting?
Yes.
All right, from the 10th to the 12th, to either the 10th or the 12th, I'll go okay, I think.
Same here.
12 is okay. 12 is fine.
Doesn't matter.
Either.
I think the 12th would be okay.
Councilor Campbell,
12.
it looks like there's a consensus on February 12th.
So,
7 p.m.
And we're having that here, Gary, or in Blythe?
Meeting here, council chambers. Also wanted to mention that I filed several meeting requests last week to several provincial ministers for the upcoming Roma Convention in Toronto, and I'll keep council informed as to the status of those requests. Also wanted to share my time with Connie.
Okay, I just wanted to, because I was working on our coming events list for this year, I was getting a little bit overwhelmed because it's going to be a crazy busy year in 2014. This is just events to date. I guess one of the most important things to note on there that the number of volunteers that are actively working on a majority of these events already, and we'll continue to work on them throughout the year. And there's several events yet to come in. So mark your calendars now because we're going to be busy this year. To note, I just wanted to point out that the Alice Munro Festival, we are going into our 3rd year of the Revitalized Festival for the Alice Munro. They are going back to a 3-day event this year. Last year they tightened their schedule up and went to a 2-day event. It's going to be a 3-day event again this year. The Friday night event is going to be a new event they're looking at right now, and it's going to be a book club bash, so for all of you readers, there you go. If you're interested, it sounds like a lot of fun. There's also a postcard on your desk if you are a writer. The postcards are out, the calls for submissions to the writing festivals. They actually go all over Ontario and across Canada to different book clubs, writing organizations. Laurel Armstrong does a phenomenal job in touching base with all of the Board of Eds. They really get distributed far and wide. Another one of note, it's the 3rd year again for the Blythe Street Festival, and they have actually started planning for their 2014 event as well. So that's a fairly new festival, but it's coming along really, really well, and they've got a great committee behind them as well. So if you have any more questions, like I said, I know there's stuff missing. I'm still waiting on some dates, several dates, but and this will grow over the next few weeks, I know.
Steve?
Can I add, the 14-19 committee is having the Blythe Street Dinner on August the 24th, where we're going to put a row of tables right down the main street, white tablecloths, and there'll be a gala dinner, and everyone's welcome. And we haven't got the price of the tickets or anything like that set yet, but the date is set.
The speed limit on the traffic going through.
Yeah.
What was the date again?
August 24th.
James?
It's good to see that the Blythe campground is a few weekends or dates booked on here, other than it looks good.
And I put those on there because I certainly tried to make sure that we've got campers packages for everybody who comes into the campground. So just for planning for the summer, we make sure that they have a current and updated package when they check in. So whatever groups are at the campground. So. Yeah, I mentioned that. That's the writers' submissions for writing, the writing competition.
Just wanted to note that I've received an email from Shannon Barnum, who is our delegation this evening. She just wanted to clarify one of the councilor's questions about the number of cataract surgeries. She said there were 17 per day, when in fact it's 18 per day, and when the services are consolidated, the plan is that there would be an additional 12 surgeries per day for a total of 30 cataract surgeries a day. Also, just coming back to the 14-19 special meeting with the council, just got an email from Peter Smith, the project chair. February 20th works best for him. He may not be in the county the previous week, so Thursday, February 20th work. Thursday, February 20th.
Maybe.
Sally?
Sally and Mike are here.
Okay.
Thank you.
going back to Sally McMullen, planner for the North Huron Comprehensive Review.
Sally, I'll put your coat with mine. I came late.
Thanks very much. Good evening. Just while we're getting the slides set up there, I can get started. So tonight I wanted to bring you a little project that we've been sort of thinking about and putting our minds to how we might make it happen. And it's called what we've decided to call it is the Wingham Area Industrial Land Strategy. So the first part of it really is for me to take a chance to highlight some of the things from the comprehensive review that we did early in 2013 and bring you sort of the results from that in a bit of a pretty brief version, and then the idea of the Wingham Industrial Land Strategy sort of flows from that information and that data that we got from doing that comprehensive review. So basically, the first thing that I'm going to talk about then is the comprehensive review, and then I'll introduce the land strategy, and then we have some time for discussion. And Mike Cohen's with me tonight. This is a real partnership between the economic development and planning side of work in the community. So we both want to sort of participate in the presentation so that you can see really where the two perspectives come from. So.
Excuse me, yes, would you like a chair?
No, I think I'm okay. Unless it makes you guys more comfortable. I've already talked about my hands.
You're all right.
So, I'm not that. Yeah, I already talked about my hands. I'll try not to move around too much.
You're not that tall, Sal.
Yeah, I'm sure people behind me seated couldn't see over top of my head. So. Okay, I really sort of need the slides to get you up on the comprehensive review. Sorry, it's Sally's technical help that's slowing down the process. We had it up, but...
Is the projector on? He thinks
no, it's not on right now, but we don't have slides up yet, so we don't need to look at everything on Sally's screen until we actually get to where we're going.
I was just trying to help Kelly. He was very concerned.
Oh.
Well, I heard it go beep and then it went down.
It's beeped, yeah. I think he might have switched it up to there, maybe? Is that far enough?
Well, so far, so good.
Yeah. I
have no complaints so far.
I haven't offended anybody yet.
It's very good.
It starts much better. Okay, here, this looks fun. So it's probably been a little while since you maybe looked at the comprehensive review, but if you'll remember, we looked at residential land, heavy commercial land, and industrial land in the entire township. And we wanted to inventory that and then figure out what our 20-year land supply is. And then match that against our expected growth. And that gives us a balance as to whether we have enough or not enough in each category. And then we look at the overall picture too and it gives us information about whether or not we have enough urban land to address growth for a 20-year period. So that's really the purpose of a comprehensive review, and that's where we went with it. So, in this case, we did look at the three different types. Sometimes you just look at, like the provincial policy statement, for instance, would just have you look at industrial land if you were trying to, or would just have you look at industrial if you were trying to increase or decrease the amount of industrial designation that you had. But we looked at all three so that we could have a really good picture of what North Huron's needs are in terms of growth and what North Huron's needs are in terms of land availability.
So anyway, we're gonna run through those 3 categories fairly quick. There's my son mark back.
So I think this question should go along with, prefer we wait till the end.
I think you could probably address them as we go. And if I think probably I have enough material here to take us through a good 25 minutes. So you know, if we get too far off track, I might just pull it back so that I don't keep you too long. Okay, we're up. Okay, this is just what I was saying about what a comprehensive review does. It looks at the entire township and it considers some external factors. And for us here in North Huron, obviously that is the urban land that abuts our own settlement areas and the influence that they would have on available land in the area. So if we look at just residential land first, I did break it down between Wingham and Blythe because the data was available. So Statistics Canada had the data that I could use to do that. So in Wingham, expected growth over the next 20 years, when you convert that into what that means in acres, it looks like we need about 25 acres for expected growth, and in Blythe 8. Now you can see we have 99 and 97 acres available in those 2 areas. So what it means at the end of the day is that we have a surplus of 163 acres that are designated residential. So this is just residential land within Wingham and Blythe. So before we get to even some of the hamlets, we have a significant residential surplus. Highway commercial land is a bit different in Wingham and Blythe. Collectively, there's about 14 acres of land that is already designated highway commercial that is currently not developed. So this is land that is available to accommodate the growth. And we expect, based on historical growth, 24 acres to be used in a 20-year period.
I know we've had this conversation before, but I'm going to bring it up for everybody. You're telling us we have 14 acres, but we have went out and seen the people, and talked to the people that own that, and they're not interested in selling it. So although it's designated as highway commercial, we can't sell it. So I'm not understanding why it's designated as, who or why it's designated as highway commercial.
So market expectations don't influence designations, because that is something that can change, can change rapidly. And planning really, like planning and land use designations in an official plan do not, they're not set by and they don't flux with changing marketability of a piece of property, of an individual piece of property.
But on the same token, you've told me the county will not allow us to get more highway commercial or industrial land, because we'll play big on industrial in a minute, because we already have this land. We have designated land.
Have land designated.
But we cannot sell it because the people that own it don't want to sell it. So how do we grow as a community?
I think what Councilor Smith is saying is it really gives a false sense of reality. Like, it may look as though we've got 14 acres, but we don't in reality, because it's really not accessible through nothing to do with the county or us, but just the current owners may not wish it to be developed. So it leaves us in a sort of a quandary.
Right. I can appreciate that, and it's not that I don't understand. It's just that this land was designated, long ago. And it's available. There isn't a policy reason why it can't develop. So planning doesn't take into account individual property owners and their own personal wishes necessarily, or reasons why they may not want to develop a property. But it is technically available to be developed, and it has been planned that growth could occur in those areas. So if they are interested in de-designating their land, then they should come forward and make that known at council. They should request it, and actually they could have requested it when we did the official plan update last year.
I won't drag this on, but it doesn't matter to the landowners how you designate it, because they're still gonna plant corn on it. They're not gonna spend any money de-designating it or going through the county. I know you're saying it's available because somebody 125 years ago made it available, but it's not available.
Within 10 years, even maintain that availability. But if the pressure for growth was there, which again is another market question, not a planning question, but if the market was there, then those opinions may change, those preferences of those landowners may change. But the pressure isn't there right now, at least not to a degree to change their mind.
I'll only make one comment, I won't hold you up any longer. The pressure's not there because they simply go over to Morris Turnberry, which is our neighbors, which we supply the water and sewers to, and they grow there, because we don't have any available land in North Huron. We've got thousands of acres in East Wawanosh. I won't
Bernie,
go on.
just,
I won't go on.
whoa, it's not, let Sally goes through this presentation. You're talking about possible things and actions that could come out of the presentation, but let her finish the presentation.
I'm fine, sorry.
Okay. So we'll look at this in terms of policy and what is currently designated. That's really what we're talking about in a comprehensive review. So in highway commercial land, there is 14 acres right now designated for those uses, and expected growth would be 24. So there's a deficit in that particular category of 10. And these 14 acres are essentially at the south end of Wingham and the north end of Wyatt. In industrial land, there is currently 31 acres available. You may say, well, where can we find 31 acres? But essentially, there are four parcels at the north end of Wingham, and then there is sort of half of a property that is underdeveloped, brings us up to 14 acres, or approximately 14 acres in Wingham, and then there is a 16-acre parcel in Blythe. So if we strictly look at what is designated, that brings us to a 15-acre surplus expected for industrial lands. Overall, obviously we have a surplus. And so it's very hard, or it would be a very uphill battle to justify the need for more urban land. When the comprehensive review was completed, I provided a set of recommendations from a planning point of view on how you might use this information to move forward and to excel some of the projects and some of the concepts that you have here that you want to work on. And I think really the big gain from the comprehensive review was the inventory. So understanding better what land is available, what are the limitations of that land, and just really having a good handle on where those pieces are, who owns them, and how they might be used. So in that comprehensive review, I provided a covering letter, and there was a set of recommendations in there, and the three that I pointed out, and this is just sort of briefly how they were written, but the three that I wanted to focus on, or felt that could really be capitalized on, is that the industrial land that we identified in the comprehensive review, it lacks infrastructure. So it's not exactly easy for a developer to come and pick out one of those pieces and do something with it right away. They're not development ready. That means that if somebody called and wanted to do something with those, we would say, okay, well, there are different studies that are required by the province that haven't been done on those properties, and those are typically studies that a developer would have to do. So they're not something someone could come in and start, building something on right away. And so I suggested in my covering letter a redevelopment and intensification focus. So if there are going to be real limitations or difficulties in expanding the boundary, then let's use this inventory and what we know about what's required for these properties to make them development ready, and focus on the assets that you have and try to make them work for you. At least, you know, that is where we could focus some energy and some time. So myself and the planner from Morris Turnberry are thinking, well, how can we support this? Like, how is this something that we could move forward, or that we could assist the township in moving forward? So when we got thinking about it, and throwing some ideas around, this is sort of where the Wingham area and the land strategy sort of came from. Was a bit of a flow of a concept, an idea from the data that we collected in the comprehensive review. So again, it's about when a developer comes to North Huron or phones Connie or phones Mike and says, I would like to do this business. It's industrial in nature, and do you have a property that, you know, I would like to come and look at properties in your area that would be available. When they come and look at the properties, they see they're vacant, and they hopefully they see opportunity or some potential there. What they don't see is the need for the planning studies. They don't see, you know, maybe the house that's 3 lots down that has a potential conflict with a type of industrial use. Those are the things that aren't obvious and that would be great if they were already taken care of. So that's really the sort of the concept behind what we need. Now, this is the gold-winning hockey team, Team Canada, from the last round of Olympics.
Soon to be repeated.
Yeah, that's right. And the reason that I have this slide in this presentation is because what I really think about this industrial land strategy is that it's a team effort, and that there are different players in this game to get these parcels ready and to spur on economic development is something that we have to do while enacting each player on the team. So each of those players has a different skill, be they the goal, defense, or whatever. And it's important that we're actually understanding as a defenseman what the forward's job is. And how, as a planner, I need to make sure that I'm doing my job the best that I can, and even better, if, you know, where I can, and make sure that I understand what Mike's role is and what council's role is, and that we're all ready to make sure that we're passing the puck to each other at the right time, and making sure that we are aiming towards the net together. So that's why this is sort of an important picture to have in here, is because this isn't a project that can be driven by planning, but there is a role for each party to play, and it's just about sort of understanding where we fit in the process, and how to receive the puck and how to pass it the best way together. So another sort of analogy is this picture of the wheels with the cogs on them, and that if we have the municipal council and staff, then another role would be planning and economic development, and that another role certainly is the business community and the local landowners that have ownership of these parcels. So sort of where you were going with it, Bernie. And that if we actually all work on turning our piece, then the whole thing will flow. And we are actually working together to get there. And I think what's also important about this picture is that the municipality is at the start. So if the little orange wheel doesn't start turning, the rest of them aren't going anywhere. So if I could blend the two analogies, it's that scoring a goal in our municipal system, if our arena is this community, then the objective or the goal that we may score is to attract a business, to attract many businesses, to take up the vacant parcels that we have, that we've identified in our comprehensive review. So I think there's 5 steps. We've identified 5 steps, trying to keep it as simple and streamlined as possible. And I'm just going to highlight them here, but we're going to go through each of the 5, and then Mike will have a chance to talk about how this actually changes the game at the economic development end. So step one is to create that inventory of industrial lands, which we've done. And then to understand what is development ready, what does that mean? So let's identify what the requirements are to make those properties development ready. So if the land is designated and zoned, are the big picture sort of provincial interests taken care of? Can we move forward, and are all those things accounted for to a large extent? Then it would be to consult with the owners of those properties and explain to them what we've learned, how we see it moving forward, and get a better awareness over our community about the different things that are influencing those properties. So at the north end of town, where we have the industrial land, it's a source water protection area. It is close to a river. There are some wet pockets. So all of these things get taken into account, and it's important that we all understand them so we can identify what uses would play best up there. Then if we could collect all that information and work with the local owners of those lands, then we update the planning documents to be really specific about what uses can go on those pieces. So if it's a half-acre property up there, it's near a house, we know what the setback is to those houses now. We've determined it through the studies. So let's just put it right into the zoning, so that when a developer comes, they know exactly the footprint of the building that they can put on that property and what limitations there might be on the type of industry that could go there. So that's where you would go with the information. And then you have this marketing piece that you can use. So that's where we're trying to get to with this, with the information that we have available to us. So we'll go through each of the steps in a little bit more detail. This is a planning role, obviously inventory, the industrial land, which we did. This shows basically a hub of industrial land at the north end of Wingham. The comprehensive review also helped us identify, we went through and did a lot of site visits and identified which properties were vacant, which ones were underdeveloped, and really tried to figure out the potential for them. So planning requirements. I'm sure this picture describes it, right? This is how people feel when they come and they want to set up a business here, and we have a pre-consultation and they find out that they have to do an archaeological assessment and a noise and dust study and a source water protection plan and all of these things, and it comes at them all at once, and they, you know, if I'm in that seat, I don't even know what questions to ask, and then I sort of feel like, well, am I the only one who doesn't get this process? Like, it seems really onerous. So what we'd like to do with the strategy is get through the maze before the developer comes. That's the objective. So we understand our way through this maze. It's just a matter of coordinating it and putting the money to it and getting to the other side. So to put this sort of to words, it is really addressing the questions. So can the property be serviced? Are there flooding issues? Will an industrial use cause negative impacts on any of the neighboring uses that exist already? So the expense to find these things out, to answer these questions, is usually the developers, and that's typically how we have operated. What it means to a developer at the end of the day is that they have to put a lot of money out up front, and there is some uncertainty in the process. And some of these studies require seasonality and take the better part of a year. So if we could get through these questions and have them answered already, then that would be a real catalyst for attracting a business and keeping them on the hook long enough to get them truly interested in this community. And I think it would be, you know, a real, something that is not being offered in other places. So it would be attractive from that point of view too, that all of this stuff is figured out. wanted to point out a couple things. I just want to go back to this one. So, some of the things that we would have to do to answer these questions would involve so looking at servicing, figuring out what source water protection for that area, as I mentioned, the noise and dust, archaeology, and environmental impact studies. So all of this information is available in that hub that I showed you on the map. Not every property requires every study, but a large portion of that needs these questions answered. So it's important to remember that these are not just the rules that everyone has to live by, but for the most part they're a really good idea, because the municipality has to, there's due diligence involved in making sure that the wellhead is protected, and that that the way we set about our land uses is sustainable over time. So that's why we would want to answer these questions in the first place. It's really a critical opportunity for the municipality to sort of lead this charge and to show how we can be investment ready. So what it comes down to is putting those wheels into motion and getting the studies done ahead of a developer coming to town. So deciding whether or not you can put the resources towards that, and whether or not you can afford not to, I guess, is the question. So these studies, if we were to do them on a grand scale and look at the entire hub at once, then it would be a lot cheaper than overall than having an individual go out and pick off the studies for their own property and having that replicated, 15 or 20 times over all those properties. So there's economies of scale by having the study done for an area rather than all individual properties.
Ellie, it must complicate things though in some manner, because you can't predict what type of an industry is going to want to come. So can you generalize a lot of those studies?
Definitely. So archaeology, for instance, would be a good example. If you did the archaeological assessment for that whole area, for the hub, and you evaluated all the vacant parcels that are left, then you would find out if there's any artifact up there that needs to be preserved, and you would have it removed and preserved, and then that's taken care of. Or else you would have already identified that there's no significant items up there, and so the whole thing is given its check mark and can move forward.
I'm just thinking the noise and dust might be the one that's
and there are some houses up there, right?
Yeah.
Some of those industrial properties that are developed already have houses on them. So an example of noise and dust and how this would play out for a D6 study, to go forward with that study and then have that taken care of, would be that the D6 would evaluate from the perspective of all the sensitive uses, what is the distance that a particular type of industry should be. So you go through your zoning bylaw and you say these are the kinds of industries that we have, or that we could have, and then you identify whether or not they could even go on some of those properties. So then you find, okay, the setback to these houses along the river there is 30 meters or 70 meters. Then you can take that data that you've learned, you can go back to your zoning bylaw and you can set the setback right in the zoning provisions for the closest industrial lots, any of the lots that are within that buffer of 70 meters. And then you can actually identify for those properties, what does the building envelope really look like here? If we have to be this far out of the source water protection zone and we have to be this far from a residential use, then if we sort of split these industrial uses into these are the ones that are more rigorous and these are the light industrial uses like warehousing or those kinds of things.
You can really pinpoint your marketing where you're going to go.
That's right.
Yeah.
So then you can identify at the end of the day, this property is a half an acre, the building footprint is this big, its access and off the road is this much, it's serviced, there's no archaeological problems, and it has a source water protection plan could be developed for these 10 types of industries. So that's exactly what we're trying to do, is identify what the limitations are up front, plan for them, put them into the planning documents, and then you can really target what business could go there. Likewise, if a property really struggled to meet some of these criteria, or the study showed that it wasn't going to be a great spot for any industry, then you can de-designate it and put that industrial designation somewhere else where you've identified that it is fine and dandy. So, you know, it just provides you with so much information that you can really almost put together like a little prospectus on each property, and then hand them out, email them to people the moment they call and say, this is the property that could fit your business. And we have 3 of them, or we have 2, or we have 1 large one, and if we could, you know, we just haven't had the business come so we know where, like how much space they need to sever off of it, or whatever. That's the whole point here, is to really identify what businesses can go there. Let's create the list, let's put it right into the zoning bylaw.
Sally, I just want a question. I'd like to understand better how the inventory works in practice. For example, you pointed out that we have a deficit in industrial commercial.
Highway commercial.
Highway commercial, sorry. And we have a surplus in residential. Would that make it easier for someone if they had saw a piece of property and they thought that could be rezoned for highway commercial? Would that make it easier to prove that because of the inventory?
Yeah, it helps you to justify that, you know, more is needed.
Yeah.
If someone came forward and said, what about my property, does it have the right characteristics for heavy commercial, then you would entertain an amendment, and they would have that working in their favor.
Yeah, good.
So what we've done is we've taken that knowledge about just the industrial part, and we've said, okay, here's our industrial parcels. We need to understand better what are the limitations or the potential limitations on these properties, so that we can identify them in the zoning bylaw and clear up any, you know, make it clear right from the beginning what can fit there.
Thanks.
James.
This study that we're talking about, I agree with this, but we almost have to need to own that land in order for us to get our money back out of this land. Like if I own that industrial land and the township does a study on it, how do we get our costs back out of that, our cost recovery?
Well, that's where Mike's going to go to with his talk.
Okay.
But
okay.
What I'm suggesting here with this strategy is that the municipality lead this progress or lead this opportunity by putting the money out there up front and saying, we want these properties to be ready, we want to be able to market them specifically, we don't want to wait for the developer to come along and then run into this timely and, you know, uncertain process of having to go through the So it's whether or not you want to sort of put your best foot forward on these properties and say, let's move these, target them, and try and be really specific about how they develop, so that we don't just keep waiting for the developer to come and then face, like the first meeting they sit down, we give them the list of studies they have to do. So it's about trying to attract people to this hub, attract businesses to these specific properties, because we already know exactly what can go there.
Excuse me a second.
Okay. Sally, okay, so for instance, we say we have 16 acres of industrial land and Blythe is designated. All that is just something on the map, right? We have to do every study on everything. It doesn't allow us to really do anything, only go ahead with all the studies, right?
No, Blythe isn't on this project necessarily, but it could be. That
this
piece.
Is Wingham comprehensive, is it?
Wingham area. Yeah, so it's the hub at the north end of town and the land at the highway. But the same concept can be used for Blythe.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that piece of property and say, okay, there's 16 acres. That's basically right now it's placeholder. It's not development ready. It's a big chunk, and even if a developer came along, it doesn't have road frontage. So what can we do as a municipality to get the ball rolling to make that piece ready? That's exactly what this is about. It's just starting in Wingham. But Blythe could be added. That piece could be added to this list.
I was going to say, Sally, wouldn't you almost want to, I think we should do the entire municipality and then sort of prioritize where, you know, where the best chance is for the quickest development. Like what's the most attractive. Maybe it is the piece in Blythe, or maybe it's a piece in Wingham, or wherever, I don't know. And focus on doing the studies on those properties that have the greatest possibility of the quickest turnaround first.
And I suspect that with the Blythe piece and the Wingham pieces, that you'll find that all of these properties, if they were brought to a development ready level, would be attractive to somebody. Like, you have a variety of sizes, you have a variety of sort of neighborhoods, you have a variety of neighbors for these properties. So you actually have a pretty good list, especially when you include all the properties in that hub. Not like there are some in North Huron and there are some in North Turnberry, but they're in a group together.
Right.
And together they offer a pretty good variety of options. So you can accommodate different types of businesses, different sizes of businesses, if you look at it as a sort of one area that you want to attract businesses to. And yeah, there's money that you would put into that, and you maybe don't tie like a revenue directly to it. But when Mike takes over, he'll be able to, discuss the greater benefits, and some of those are quite measurable in terms of dollars.
Steve, this is all really good and it's interesting, but if we're going to get our land development ready, what's the dollars and pennies required to make land development ready?
Well, an application was put together for RED funding, and I believe you saw some of those numbers right before Christmas. So all told, we got costing on the archaeological assessment, and these costings were pretty specific. Like, we went to an archaeologist and we gave them the map and we said, if we were going to study this area with all these properties, what would it cost? And they gave us a ballpark. So archaeology, we did D6, that's the noise and dust. We did a servicing option strategy costing, and some source water protection stuff.
And is that per acre or is that per?
This is for the whole area.
For the whole area.
So like I said, we gave each sort of specialist or professional, we gave them the map and said, what would it cost to do this whole hub? And the price tag, I think, was in the neighborhood of $105,000.
112,430.
Okay, so 112. And I believe when you take into account the possible RED funding, that the price tag for each municipality was in the neighborhood of $22,000.
I think, Sally, you answered. So this is a survey for both North Huron and Morris Turnberry jointly.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not seeing the land that you're talking about for Morris Turnberry tonight. We're just talking about the land.
Well, the map that I showed you, that hub, has both.
Does it?
It does, yeah. I can go back to it once I get through these next few slides. But yeah, I mean, the estimates that we got were based on the area. So, and I mean, when a developer comes and they need a particular piece of property, we want them to look at this area. We don't want them to go to Palmerston or Listowel, or, we want them to identify that they can get what they need here, right? Yeah. So yeah, we looked at the whole area because it offers the variety that you need to make a good pitch. So step 3 would be a consultation with landowners. So once we collect all the information, if we do the studies, we have the mapping, it shows exactly, what each property's capacity is. Then we could do some traditional type of public awareness stuff, like at open houses, and have the maps there and trying to interact with people about their properties. And maybe we would come up with some other way, but the important thing would be that each of these landowners, I mean, if you look at that picture there, those puzzle pieces kind of represent properties. So they abut, they're all very different, they have different capabilities, but they do have to fit together and work together. So if the person, you know, with the property that's red understood that the yellow property is a source of our protection area, then they could see how the zoning that we would propose works, so that both of these can have some kind of development that suits the property, suits the individual properties. So it is about understanding each other's property and getting to know the area really well, so that we can work together to market it and say, you know, this is where you want to come. So-and-so has a property that would work for you. So again, the players here in this part of our arena, this part of the game, is councils and staff making those connections with landowners, and then the planners and the economic development people being there to describe, you know, to answer questions about the study, to explain maps, and to offer how this furthers economic development. So the public consultation piece would really be the step of all five steps, where we would all be participating at the same time. Again, once we had the information from the studies and we could target the zones and the official planning policies that would really facilitate the development of these properties, then the municipality can initiate amendments to the documents. So you can initiate your own amendment to accommodate the information that we got and and then put into place the specific pieces for each of the properties. So what we hope to do, what the idea is that we are able to get through the maze, identify all of the requirements for those properties, achieve the studies, use the information gleaned from the studies to target the policies for each of those properties, and then to provide the fodder for the market plan, where the economic development people can take those individual property prospectuses or prospecti to the business community and say, here are the pieces that will work for you. It's an opportunity not just to be able to respond to calls or to respond to interest, but to actually go out actively seeking business owners who need to expand or need to move or want to get started and say, we have these properties. What do you want to do? Because we probably have a property that works for you. Because there is quite a good variety of size and capability. So this is where I'm going to pass it over to Mike, and obviously we'll be able to answer some questions after, but anyways, I hope that I've sort of given you the pieces to understand that budget that you saw before Christmas and where it can go if we actually do it.
Thanks, Sally. I'm going to be really brief because Sally has picked up and touched on most of what I'm going to say. Let me just begin with a little story. When Sally and Susanna approached me about their hockey team analogy, they wanted to use the new Olympic team that's playing this year. It took a consultation with my two sons to realize that they hadn't got together yet for a photo. So I explained the purpose to my sons, who are 10 and 12, and they got it. And they said, well, whatever you do, Dad, make sure you pick a winning team. So just to get a dig in on their old band, they said, don't choose your Leafs, Dad. So anyways, what I'm going to talk about is...
I'll go back to that one.
Okay. Is really the term shovel ready, which is what we're talking about. And that's an economic development term. Connie's well aware of it. Development ready, shovel ready, however you want to define it. Competition is fierce. We're up against jurisdictions that have shovel ready land now. So when the inquiries come in to Connie or I, a lot of the time that we spend is just trying to identify the land that might work. If it's privately owned, trying to talk to that landowner. Are they interested in selling? If so, for how much? A lot of time is spent doing that. As Sally's mentioned, there's a lot of studies that are required. All this takes time, more time, more time. Meanwhile, that developer's getting antsy and they've looked at other jurisdictions, and lo and behold, they've gone somewhere else because they have shovel-ready land. So that's really what it's all about. And having that shovel-ready land can in fact be a game changer in the sense of the reaction time that we're able to respond to these developers in. So this is a little crammed in, but really what does shovel-ready mean? Really it's about having a property that's controlled through ownership or an option that's readily available for ownership. It's been touched on a few times here tonight. Ideally, best case scenario or ideal scenario, you would have some municipally owned lands that are ready to go. That way you know exactly what your asking price is, you know exactly what the situation for that property is, and you can respond very, very quickly. The utilities, whether it be water, sewer, gas, broadband is really important now, which I know you have. That needs to be present or easily delivered to that site. Things that Sally's picked up on tonight, the environmental, the archaeological studies, things like that, those all should be looked after. You know, is it the right shape? You don't want sort of an odd, you know, shaped property to market where maybe it's landlocked and things like that. So you want to make sure you've got good footprints, good access. For transportation is also key under number 6 there. A bit of buffering is always a good idea to accommodate different types of industry, the dusty industries versus the ones that may require some, you know, more water or cleaner environments. So those are just sort of very quickly some of the, you know, there's many other factors, but those are sort of the top 6 that you often see cited as what really shovel-ready land is all about. So, and just quickly, you know, there's a lot of things that, this is a survey that was done by the Economic Development Association of Canada a few years ago, surveying folks like Connie and I across Canada, and this is sort of the top 10 list that EDOs came up with across Canada about how you can measure things in economic development. And really this is what it's all about tonight. You know, how many more new businesses can we attract? New employees means greater population, and you know, regardless of where that industry locates, you know, you could have workers that are living in another jurisdiction right next door, right? So everybody can benefit in that regard, whether it's through industrial tax base or residential tax base. And the list goes on, I'm not going to go through all of it, but really, you know, one development can spur on other development. So you get a new industry coming to the north side of town, that might spark a new restaurant downtown, or it might spark a new retail store because there's more employees and more foot traffic coming in. So that was really just sort of trying to wrap it all up, and that was why Gary and Sally had asked me to come tonight, and really I guess it's back to questions now, if anybody has some.
Michael, long time no see.
Yes.
Going back to my original statements, and now that we're specifically talking about this area in Wingham and we have the area in Blythe, we could probably do much better with. I understand where you're going with this, and I understand the Rural Economic Development Program, the RED that you guys are working on. Again, I'm going to go back in public. My problem is, you know what we went through last summer, the land up there that we would spend $50,000, $75,000, whatever, we don't own, we can't control. You're absolutely right. We need to own and control it and have the pricing on it. So we're going to spend all this money and still not be able to sell land. Having said that, I understand that Morris Turnberry's out there. And we're discussing that with Morris Turnberry now about the cost of servicing and what we can do to work together on that. Kind of curious though, I appreciate you guys coming today, but I'm wondering if you ever thought of, just because North Huron has an economic development committee with private citizens on it and takes the politics out of it, so to speak, and so does Morris Turnberry. And I'm wondering if you'd be interested in you folks having a joint meeting with those committees and yourselves and explaining to this and seeing their reaction. I think that would be, maybe push this a little forward. I am always going to have problems with the fact of spending town money on private land that we know, it's not that it's not available, it's just that it's a very tough sale. And I understand down the road it may be available. I'm not missing anything on that. It's just that I don't want to wait another 25 years. So I'll just change.
I would suggest too that you're not alone in Huron County as a municipality. There, you know, with one exception, you know, there's very, very little municipally owned industrial land in the county. And this is an issue in other municipalities right now too, where that delay in time or reaction time is there because the inquiry comes in and then you're on the phone to the private landowner and trying to determine availability, price, etc. So no question, that's an ideal scenario, but you know, there are other options to explore with these landowners, to have something in writing in place when the inquiry comes in. I think you could explore both those options.
I was just going to say, I think this is great news, and I think it's a great step in the right direction. One, having the inventory, and you know, we've all heard around the table about the red tape driving the developers away and things like that. Not so much your large-scale developers like your A2A developers, because they are professional developers. They are used to paying for these studies, and they know what's expected. But for the smaller portions, I mean, it can be pretty daunting for a developer to walk in and say, okay, well now you need you need an ANSI study and you need all this other stuff. And if we can work together with our partners to try to cut some of that red tape and make this a more efficient process, I think that we've really gained quite a leap ahead, as you've said, to getting that shovel ready and to getting the marketability of the properties, which we've been talking about for quite a while, is focusing that down to a laser determination and vision as to who we were going to market those particular pieces of property to. If we can go to them and say, look, it's ready, all the better. So thank you for all the work that all of you have done.
I can go back to those couple slides that this one is sort of a projection on how the project may unfold. And the inventory obviously is done since the comprehensive review was completed last year. What we did is we took the criteria. So if I was looking at an individual property, I would go through a checklist to determine whether or not it needed an archaeological assessment. And likewise, I would go through a buffering exercise, a mapping exercise to see if it needed a D6 study. So essentially what we did is we went through each one of those categories and identified which properties. We took the inventory, then we basically made a chart, and with the help of GIS identified every one of those properties and which studies they need. So you can find anywhere on that matrix. If it's property 15, it needs these 3 studies of the 5. So that's what we did, and that's where we came up with our costing and identified which properties are in which, if they're in the source water protection zone. We know that now. We've identified all that through mapping.
Question, why does it take a year? Like if I want to buy a piece of land to build a widget factory, and I'm going to go from March until 2014, spring of 2015. I'm going to walk away from it. Why does it take a year?
Well, some of the studies require that, like an environmental impact study, for instance, requires that you actually spend time in each season observing for different species. So you may actually, depending on what type of natural heritage you have there, whether it's a wetland or a woodlot or whatever, and then other data that's available on species at risk and all that, you match all that stuff up together, and then an ecologist would determine whether or not they need to study it for 3 seasons or 4 or 2. So some of those studies just take that long because of the timing required and the different seasons they have to view it in. Same with groundwater. It fluctuates in, like the A2A one, for instance, like they're monitoring groundwater for a year period to see how it fluctuates over the seasons. Archaeology, it's hard to predict how long that one takes, because you do stage 1, and that really is like a history of the area and trying to figure out its potential. Based on that study, you go to stage 2. Stage 2 is actually walking the property and doing sort of targeted shoveling in certain areas. So you can't do that in the winter time. So that would be something you'd have to happen in the spring, summer, or fall. Depending on what they find, if they, then you may have to go to stage 3. All these things take time, and then that goes to the ministry. So to be checked off against their list. So yeah, if somebody was coming to North Huron and they were interested in one of the little properties at the north end and they wanted to set up shop up there, and they came in for pre-consult, and I said, well, it's industrial, it's designated, it's zoned for industry, so you got those two things going for you. The type of industry that you want to do looks like something that could go there. Here are the list of studies that you need to do. And they may find, as an individual, that they're going to spend, tens of thousands to get each of these studies completed. And that's just one property that's half an acre and they want to put a warehouse on it. So unless they have a business plan that can justify those kinds of expenses, they're just going to go walk away.
So, in other words, we could almost eliminate that year, or at least a good part of it.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, so.
Well, and the uncertainty of it is another big one.
So what I'm wondering is, what's the longevity of those studies? Like, we're not going to sell the place overnight. It's not going to be.
All of those, once you've done them, they're done.
For good.
The only one that is tricky is on timing, or that can expire, is the environmental site assessment, and that's if you're taking, and that actually doesn't apply to any of those properties. That's if you're trying to redevelop something that was industrial and turn it to residential.
So that's a very, very important.
And those ones expire. But these, like once you've done an archaeological assessment, and you've met all the checks and balances, it's done. You don't have to do it again.
Gary? Go ahead, Gary. Go ahead. Just a couple comments, maybe a question too. It's my understanding that Morris Turnberry Council are getting the same presentation tomorrow night from their planner. And are you attending that presentation as well?
Yes, I'm hoping to.
I just want to confirm for Councillor Hallahan that it is the intent of the North Huron Morris Turnberry Working Group to focus on Blythe and East Wawanosh and the entire township.
Yeah, we were talking about Blythe at our last meeting, how we might incorporate it in and just, do the same things for it. The question is whether we want to shift, whether, it's advantageous or smart or whatever to shift it to the highway first. We don't want to do an archaeological assessment on the north end only to shift it down like 400 meters and then find that we didn't study the right area.
No.
But we could, archaeology would be the one that would be, that would apply to, I mean, you could still do the noise and dust and create the buffers, and that could still work. So, we did identify that one and talked about whether or not we should be including it in this group and how best to do it if we did want to do that. It wasn't meant to, none of this was meant to exclude Blythe in any way. It was really just, we got the comprehensive review done. It really doesn't give us a lot of moving room on getting more land identified as urban. So how can we use this information to actually spur on economic development? Like, what can we do with the assets that we have? Because the cluster in itself actually is an asset. The fact that there's this whole area and it's in one spot and it's on a highway and, and it sort of facilitates doing some of these studies because of it's all in one area. So it was sort of the attraction of the hub, but it wasn't meant to exclude anybody.
We have a highway commercial in Belgrade, right, in East Warren?
Yeah.
Yes, and we have residential in Belgrade.
Belgrade actually is all designated, it's designated urban, so it can go either way, depending on the property. Same thing, there's a property there that, I had an inquiry about, and I basically outlined the list of studies that they would have to do to assess whether or not the development they want to do is appropriate.
Marie, Sally, thank you. Could you go back to the map, please?
Yeah. Sorry.
So just help me here. Morris Turnberry is the purple stuff?
No, purple is actually undeveloped.
Okay.
You can see these big ones, obviously. You can see those pretty good. Yeah. And then there's 4 more up right in here. 4 more purple ones. Green is underdeveloped. That means there's a significant amount of land there that a consent, a severance could be justified to create some more purple, essentially. And blue is what's already developed. And red is actually properties that are, I think, highway commercial, but that there is development interest in, and they are currently being evaluated for a designation change.
So just help me find the road between, I'm just wondering how much of this is Morris Turnberry and how much of this is
okay, so the border is like right here.
It's right there. So to the left of that is Morris Turnberry?
Yeah.
Okay, and the purple stuff's the stuff they want to do the study on?
And yeah, and there's some here too.
Okay, so the purple stuff is...
This green one?
Mm-hmm. But that's ours, right?
The green one is North Huron. These 4 purple ones are North Huron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go over to Morris Turnberry, then the purple stuff.
Yeah.
It is designated as industrial?
Yeah, everything that has a color is designated industrial.
Okay.
And the colors, the different colors just sort of tell you what kind of industrial land it is. So is it underdeveloped or not, or developed or vacant. So purple is vacant land. And yeah, there's some big chunks there in Morris Turnberry. But are they actually, like one of them has a wetland on it. One of them is a horse farm. If we could identify whether or not they're good pieces, that would be great.
So since it's a horse farm, I think it's like 10 years old, the house and barn, and I believe the next house too is fairly new. And you've got, if we start running into OMB hearings, now we're into 10 years, is my understanding. Well, we want to designate this as industrial, and Morris Turnberry does, it's their land.
It's already designated.
It's already designated.
Oh.
All of this, everything that has a color is
No, it's okay.
is industrial. Everything that has a color is already designated industrial. That's how we identify them for the study.
Okay.
Is these are the ones that are already designated. But what we don't know is whether they have a severe limitation. Or whether or not only a portion of it is really good for industrial use. So let's figure that out. Because if it's not good, if it's not usable, then we can shift things around.
And I think I think it's step 3, Sally, the consultation with the landowner there is key.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we've had that.
But we haven't had it with all these pieces. Like I think it might be a different feeling consultation if we went and everybody could see on the map whether their property had the constraint of a source water protection or whether they had the constraint of a house nearby, you know, and what portion of their property is usable. Or if somebody found that their property was really good industrial land, they might be more motivated to sever or to make it available.
And I guess I asked my question wrong. There is a house there now, just like we have out at Hutton Heights, and it's very obviously that house is not, sitting on the proper designation. That house is already there. What's his repercussion if he doesn't want that factory beside him? It's already industrial land.
The house itself is constrained, as long as it's there. And there are houses, actually in the blue in the middle, that blue is all developed land. And some of that is houses. Some of the blue along North Street is houses. So we've used those houses to identify where a noise and dust study is required. And it actually helps us to figure out which parts of the purple can be developed based on where those houses are located already. Yeah. So, I mean, that purple one, the big purple one there, it has a house and we accounted for it in the thing. But, I mean, we might find that that property isn't the best industrial property. And, like, let's get it off the list if it is.
But that would be about between Morris Turner and yourselves $100,000 to find that out.
If we do all the properties that are in here, yeah, purple, green, and red.
Just through you to Mike. Mike, I wonder if you could tell us, Morris Turnberry and North Huron, I think it's fair to say, have seen an extraordinary amount of interest over the last 2 to 3 years. I think you can attest to that between you and Connie, the amount of calls we're getting. And I wonder, you can put your crystal ball out, and do you foresee, because I think some of us around this table do, that in the next little while that the 2 municipalities could become a northern economic hub? You know, you can kind of see that happening within the county now. You see certain regional economic hubs occurring, and one of them seems to us to be clearly up at the northern end in our area between Morris Turnberry and Wingham. Would you concur with that assessment, or what's your assessment of the?
Yeah. The other advantage is you've already got clustering of like-minded companies in that area, right? So a lot of building-related companies. So that is an asset as far as marketing the property to other companies that may be, you know, suppliers or, you know, related to those particular subsectors. So that, I think, is a real advantage, and you've already got that now, and I think that positions it nicely for more growth in those areas. And I think identifying those target industries when you go to the next phase, which is the marketing, is really key, because you don't want to go after something and spend lots of time and resources if it's not a good fit. You want something that's going to be a good fit.
We've mentioned a number of times about the need to motivate the owners of land to be open to offers and that sort of thing. I'm wondering if there would be a value in getting them together at some point to see that there's a general movement of making land ready for occupancy and the possibility of great economic development. That might open their minds somewhat to would that be a good strategy?
I think that's exactly what step 3 is.
Yeah, that's part of the presentation.
Is that, you know, we could have a meeting now, but what we could tell them is that some of these properties have potential constraints that we haven't been able to nail down what exactly they are.
See, I was thinking that you were talking about individual one-on-one consultation.
Start with a group,
that
and then you'd have to go probably one-on-one after that, but a group to start would be good. I think the other thing that landowner consultation will identify too is who may just never be interested in moving ahead with any sort of industrial development, and at that point you have to ask yourselves, should we be de-designating and looking at another area? It's another part of it. And that's, you know, they're right, you know, they own the property, so those discussions have to happen.
Gary, just a couple quick comments. Just to pick up on Councilor McGowan's comments about economic hub. One of the goals of the North Huron Morris Turnberry Working Group is to attract economic development to the area, regardless of whether it ends up in North Huron or Morris Turnberry, because aren't we better off having that economic development activity in this region rather than in North Perth or Walkerton? And those are good communities too, but we want the economic development to happen here. So that's one of the goals, is to get the economic development to this region, regardless of where it ends up. The second thing is that I think it's noteworthy that North Huron and Morris Turnberry are the only two municipalities in Huron County currently working together on an economic development action plan to bring activity to the region, and we're very proud of that. The third thing is that Sally, I think did you want a commitment from North Huron Council tonight to support this strategy in principle, or what's the next step here?
In principle, yeah. I mean, if we go back to this slide here, I mean, after the comprehensive review, I'm sort of excited about the ability of this community to move forward on the assets that you have, like to try and leverage these studies to get development on those vacant parcels. I always feel bad when I get the call from Connie about someone's interested in one of those properties, and this is my response, you know, that maze is my response. And so I was, you know, after the delivery of the comprehensive review, I thought, okay, this is an opportunity for the planner to be assisting in a different way than we normally do. It's sort of it's proactive instead of reactive to a response. And this is, you know, an opportunity for our department, from both Mike's and I's perspective, to facilitate something that can get you farther ahead than what we're doing now, which is responding to inquiries that may fit, may not fit, but there's a whole bunch of unknowns. So yeah, I think that unless that little orange wheel at the beginning starts to turn, I can't do much with this. I mean, Morris Turnberry, before Christmas, was already on board. They made the red application. I think they're going to go and do some of this work. It's whether or not you want me and yourselves and, you know, the business community here to be to be some of these wheels. So I need to know in principle if this is what you want me to work on.
I would make a
Councillor
motion that
Liddell?
we support this plan in principle. Second.
Just want to make
Discussion?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment here. I know where everybody's going to understand what they're doing. I'm still going to fall back on the problem from North Huron, especially Wingham Ward's councillor, that we're pretty well sure the land up there is not for sale. It's not. But the other problem is when you guys put your red program together, there's something in here that we have been working on with Morris Turnberry, but it makes me very nervous to take this jump. It says in here, report on the servicing agreement between North Huron and Morris Turnberry by Gary Long. And this was put together December 17th and handed to me, or emailed to me.
Councillor McGowan?
I think through you to Councillor Bailey, I think two things are.
Just a sec. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think that the issues around the private property owners, I think as Sally has said, we'll work themselves out through the process. If I were to be one of the private property owners and these studies were going to be done that might make my property more attractive to future development, I can't see a reason I wouldn't be on board, other than I maybe have no interest in ever developing it as industrial land, and thereby I would be, interested in, as Mike said, de-designating the property. The servicing issue, we're in current discussions with Morris Turnberry, and I don't see that as a detriment to moving this process ahead whatsoever.
No, you see fit to cut me off to allow Mr. McGowan to speak, so I shall be silent.
Any other comments or debate? If you read.
Yeah, we, back in December, we turned down the red program in part because we didn't have the full report. And about a week after we turned it down, we got the full report. And after I read it, I really felt embarrassed that we turned it down. And so I would be in favor of going ahead and supporting it both in principle and financial.
Any other comments? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Feel that it should be part of the budget discussions.
Yes, I think it should be part of the budget discussion. I'll make that a motion.
Seconder? McGowan? Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
And hopefully we can update the team picture.
Yes.
Thank you for the time.
If not, we'll use the women's team.
Thank you, Sally and Mike.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Moving to public gallery questions and or comments. Trevor?
Yes, Reed, a couple of questions. One thing about the Heritage Building, establishing Heritage Building, in the past, has this had a potential impact on costing of refurbishment? So basically my question is, because it's a Heritage Building, does it cost more to refurbish it if it's not?
Councillor McGowan?
I think the short answer is yes. But I think the architectural heritage of the municipality in some ways has to be preserved. Is it more expensive to take care of those buildings because there's certain stipulations you have to stick to? Yes. But these buildings, such as the Memorial Hall, I think are of such importance to the history and the makeup and the personality of the municipality. I think that I honestly don't understand why it wasn't designated a long time ago, that particular building.
So just so I can understand. So if, because of the historical nature of the building, we're saying it could be more expensive than a normal building, even though it's not designated as a heritage building. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I think, just to answer your question, to clarify, if a building being designated under the Heritage Act can make it more expensive to renovate, because you have to be to those standards. There's certain standards about facade, even down to paint color and things like that. That building is not designated at this point, but I think what we're hearing is that it is of importance to look into designating that building at some point.
Brock?
There's a building in Blythe that was initially a meeting place, a meeting hall. And over the years, somebody purchased it when its initial function ceased. And through various transformations it's gone through, historically it's destroyed. Now the building's still there, but it has no heritage left in it. I lived in it myself for many years. My parents did some of the damage to it to make it a better place to live, but we really wiped out the heritage of it. And now we're beginning to realize the importance of that building in the history of the town. And we've lost that because there was no designation then. They didn't have that process. And so I see the same danger with Memorial Hall and maybe other buildings too, that we could lose lots of value in them by just not being aware.
So I just want to make, and the reason why I'm asking that question is, is there a way to put the value of a heritage building, the mission is we want to maintain it to be a heritage facility, but not designated as a heritage facility until the renovations are done. If it's gonna, that, as funny as that sounds.
I know where you're coming from.
That's the reason why I'm asking.
Pat?
Hi. Yeah, so what Archie's saying can be true. And in our consultation with our, the person who wrote the Heritage Conservation Plan, that building has been changed so many times over the years that pieces of it are you can change them as many times as you want. What we will do is designate certain features of that building that we don't want to have changed, or if they're going to be renovated, they go back to the original. And it's not that we have to have every doorknob and every window exactly how it always was. Some of the things he talks about is there's always been a very designated courtyard in front of Memorial Hall. That should be preserved. It should not ever move the building to the sidewalk. That the look of the Memorial Hall, the original hall, and the cupola at the top is a very significant piece, and that needs to be preserved. But the Link was built in 1980, the North Building was built in 1990. Those would be modified, modernized without any issue. The pieces inside that are considered the memorial plaques and displays need to be preserved. Do they have to sit exactly where they are today? Or when we renovate, do they give even a bigger feature and even more importance in that building? So to say that it definitely makes it more expensive, it can if there's some sort of specific brick color you're trying to match and you have to go to Ireland to find it. Okay. But what we're talking about is never losing the look of the hall, the feel of that courtyard, and the things that are important to the memorial piece of that.
Yeah.
And so if you look at the conservation plan, you'll see what he's talking about: restoring, renovating, and doesn't matter what we do with it.
All my point is that I agree totally with doing that, but if you do the steps where you refurbishment and then you designate as heritage, or you do the opposite, it could be $50,000, $100,000. Like, that's what I'm trying to understand. I don't know the right answer.
So I think that the answer you get to, I mean, Thor he specializes in heritage buildings.
Yes.
So he has written this report in such a way as to preserve the different parts of it. That aspect's already been, that lens is being used already.
Okay. Even though it's not designated or not.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the other comment or question I had was, two other questions. One, the lighting design through your to Connie was, from the BIA's perspective, is that something that the public would have input, or obviously the council would have input before the BIA goes and buys it? I guess my question is, if they're getting money from council, I guess that would have to be, but is there public input to that?
I suppose it should be presented to at a council meeting, yeah, and I don't believe it has been yet.
And the last thing I had was, we've talked a lot about shovel ready for the last, do we have any properties that are shovel ready in North Huron?
We have two lots down in the industrial park that are ready to go right now. I think you would have noticed, like last year, Hurontel bought the one.
Yep.
They built right away. So there is a couple of pieces that are available for development right away.
So in follow-up to that conversation is, I'm actually quite surprised that this particular enactment from the county and the planning hasn't happened 50 years ago. I'm surprised that we don't know what those lands have to speed up development. Like, I find that a very struggle.
I think historically, I think Sally or Mike said it today, that there has been a reactive standpoint. And I think that part of this has come from a conversation that we've had around this table about the need to properly inventory things. And that has led into conversations with Sally and with Mike, with North Turnberry, because we sort of have, joint issues that, that they've put their thinking caps on, and this RED program has come up, and it sort of has just all meshed together and into this idea, which I think is a huge leap forward for the municipality, for us and for North Turnberry.
Yeah.
And a certain amount, such as the source water protection, there's a number of those points that came through in the past decade that are being asked to be looked at, basically to protect water systems, etc., that we didn't have before.
Yeah. Just one other point, Your Worship, if you don't mind. There are other aspects of certain businesses that we've heard from within North Huron that they have said, dealing with different county services like plumbing inspection has become a roadblock to development in some cases. And so we're working, Gary is working with the county to discuss those issues, the things that we're hearing that is also slowing up and frustrating the smaller retail developments. Because that's another roadblock to getting future assessment, future development, future businesses going as well. So we've been working on that as well.
Yeah, like the one thing that I find very interesting is that we've talked a lot about in these meetings about tax base and where do you get it and additional revenue. To spend $112,000 to have, if that's the number, to have a better chance at economic development, sign me up tomorrow. It's so much more than that. Like, to bring it closer together, like whether it be a year or 6 months, we're spending way too much at not doing it.
I think it's fair to say, I think the stars are aligning really for this northern end of the county. It really, as I said, I think it's really becoming, it's got a bright future, and it's got a great possibility and likelihood of becoming a northern economic hub for the county.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Brian?
Yeah, I got a few items. I agree with Trevor on some of these items. Why wasn't this done, a number of years ago? I've been in town for 14 years now. My taxes have went from 1,400 over 4,000. I went to all the candidates meetings over the years since it has started, and I've heard the same thing from our council, that we are going to get more development, we're going to get our taxes in order, we are going to get, everything rolling. And, here we are 14 years later, another election coming up, and how much development have we brought to town? Where is our land base? Like, you're talking about land south of town. Now, what, I wasn't aware of where this land is. Is it the river flats? Is that what they're planning on developing?
That was mentioned today.
Yeah, tonight you said
Yes.
south end of town.
Yes.
Like,
That- well,
what is that going?
both sides.
Both sides of the road. So what, who is going to build down there? You know, we see it flooded every spring, and maybe this year again. Like, I wouldn't want to build a house or a building, like a business in that land, because to me it's black mud.
Did you have a comment or
Just in fairness, Tim Hortons never used to be on that corner either. There are
Yeah,
developers out there.
Yeah, but it is, sure.
Point of order, Your Worship. Just, like there are developers out there that are interested in spending the money to do that work. And we have had developers talking to us about different pieces of property. In fairness as well, I think what we've seen over the last number of years are different strategies being tried, and some have been successful and some have not. No council is perfect. This is another strategy that has come to the top, and it's one that we're pursuing and we think has great merit.
So you would build your nursing home down there on that land?
That's really irrelevant. I think what we're saying is, Brian, there are developers out there that are willing to spend the money.
That are going to bring gravel in to build that up?
It's possible. Did you have something to
I
add?
just wanted to say that it's important to note that at this point in time, that's a designation on that land.
Right.
So that whole discussion tonight, when we're talking about looking at some of these lands and seeing how viable it is, that'll all come out of this study, and that's really how we want to move forward. So regardless of
and it may be de-designated because of that, and we can look at other things.
But the land at the north end here, you're talking right in there where Foxton's fuels are. Is that kind of what the picture that I'm
that's
going
at
by?
the north end.
Yeah, the north end.
Yeah.
And the rest is owned by Morris Turnberry. Quite a bit of it.
Not all of it, but
A big part of it, yes.
So, do you feel that yous can get along with Morris Turnberry? Like, look where our fire went, and how many meetings did it take? How much, what did it cost the taxpayers? Like, you hear it on the news the other night that that meeting in London was 90-some thousand that it cost the taxpayers in London over, that meeting that they had at Billy Pease or something. Like, how many meetings in that did yous all go to? And like Morris Turnberry was going to build their own fire department.
Your Worship, I don't think we're in the middle of a discussion about fire departments. There was issues on both sides. We worked through them together and we got an acceptable agreement.
But how
I'm
long
sorry that Brian doesn't feel that it was done the timeframes to his liking. I'm sure we would have liked to have been shorter either, but I think the important part is that the issue was solved.
Okay, that's good, Archie.
The
My other question to you is, this user wanting to save money. So, you buy an aerial fire truck, right? For roughly $400,000. Is that right? Okay. How many times in the last year would you have used that aerial truck? That you brought one in from Listowel and...
Your Worship, I think we took the advice of our fire chief, who just done some assessments on some current buildings within the municipality that he feels he does not have the accessibility in a safe manner if there were a fire in those buildings. I'll take his advice. I understand what Brian's saying, and but you know what, he is responsible and to make sure that we assess and make sure that we're able to protect the residents as best we can. Currently, this fire department is looked up to by every fire department within the county.
It's a state of the art.
Yes, it is, and training-wise as well.
Yep.
Training-wise as well. We've got departments that are looking at our firefighters saying, we wish we could train like that. So
But do you have enough people to warrant it? The taxpayers are going to pay for it. You have 3,000 people, comparing to Listowel and Seaforth and Goderich that have a lot more taxpayers.
that our Brian, our municipal partners are also contributing to that. And by having that aerial, it puts, I'll say, this area as to being able to have one there in time. By Listowel or Godrich or Seaforth, that the real value is being able to respond in time if there's people in a building to basically get them out safely. This is part of what was the original 20-year plan put together, that it was worked into the schedule where each station is to have a frontline pumper that is under 20 years. This is coming in to work replacing as the first line vehicle in the station to have one under the 20 years because the one is at 23 years right now. It's meeting those provincial standards that way, and that this vehicle basically, yes, it's something that we're not used to in this area, but we do have buildings, I'll say on the main street here, that we could not get people out of the top story with the ladders that we currently have. And that with that ladder, it can be deployed in probably half to a third of the time that man-carried ladders would work.
But you did have one deal.
That we're not here to discuss the fire department tonight, or else we would have the fire chief here. The one thing I'll say in this, I'll say the $112,000 project, that there is other grant money, and then with it split between two municipalities, that greatly brings the cost for each property down for us to move ahead in doing it. Yes, maybe a bunch of it should have been done before. It isn't because we haven't approached people. It isn't because we've tried negotiating. And
when you're talking about the buildings, I know you have buildings in Wingham. Lucknow has buildings, Teeswater has buildings, Gorey has buildings that are probably just as high as the ones in Wingham. And you also, did you not have an aerial fire truck? That is out at Lynn Hoy's.
There was a ladder truck that had to be retired for technical reasons, and this has been in the works, this plan, as Neil has said, to replace that unit for quite some time.
So you have had the aerial truck, and how many times did you use it? Or did it go out to the golf course to drop the balls for the fundraiser for the hospital?
Ryan. It went out to calls.
Not very damn many.
I wasn't aware you worked for the fire department, Brian.
I don't work for the fire department, but I don't think that.
We're getting
another question. We'll just skip the fire for now. Your electric car charger across the way. You put one of them in. How many vehicles does North Huron own that are electric?
Which none. The thing of it was, putting it in was to have other vehicles, people that would be driving to town, that would spend an hour shopping or in the restaurant. I don't have an accurate level of what the usage is. But one thing that did surprise me was the number of people that live in town that do have electric vehicles that sent emails to me afterwards congratulating us for moving forward that way. I understand that whether, with the weather we've had, whether it'll happen this month or next month, but we will have another electric vehicle charging station within the municipality just west of Belgrave, put in by a private business.
I just haven't seen any cars getting charged, that's what, I guess when I go up and downtown, there isn't anything in front of it, so I wondered how many, you know, what the reasoning was that you would put it in if it's not being used.
Brock?
Apparently, all of the owners of electric cars, probably around North America, have maps and they know where they're available. So if they're traveling, they will know to look at this, see that there's one in Blythe, there's one in Wingham, there's one near Belgrave. So it's well set up and we don't even have to pay for that advertising.
Well, that's good. My final question, and then I'll get out of your road, is the way the council has been acting in the 14 years that I've been to town, it puts me in mind of a cash cropper that has 2 new tractors, a full line of equipment to go behind it, new combines, and he's got no land base. He's got 10 acres or so. You seem, to me, and my opinion only, that you seem to overspend for the population that you have. You're comparing to municipalities that have 20, 30,000 people. And Wingham is sitting with 3,000. But you have the state-of-the-art fire department, you do have, you know, town policing, all these items, and can us as taxpayers keep on paying? Like they've tripled in, you know, 14 years.
Okay, all the services that we have in North Huron, the people of North Huron have asked for them over the years.
I have nothing against the services
and they
if we
have
can
been provided, and they're here, and now we have to pay for it. Ongoing costs of swimming pools and arenas are high. There isn't an arena in the country that makes money.
Oh, no, never was.
And neither the swimming pools.
Yeah.
We also have roads that we have to maintain, we have equipment that we have to buy. All that costs money.
Yeah.
I agree, our costs are too high, but at the same time, as a councillor, I take exception to your comment because every time somebody comes to me and says that your taxes are too high, and I ask them, what services do you want cut? Nobody will say what services you want cut. We want all of the stuff we've got, but we don't want to lose it, and we won't lose it, but damn it, reduce our taxes.
We don't have enough bodies.
That's why we're working on economic development and industrial development, and that's part of the reason why we've got the Wingham Creek subdivision going in, so that we can increase our assessment, we can increase the number of bodies that we have. Believe me, this council has been working on it and will continue to.
Like I've talked to real estate men, and they claim that Wingham is the hardest place to sell property.
I've heard that.
You've heard that too.
Come to Blythe.
Yeah, you can go to different places. That's good. I thank you very much for your time. I've spilled mine, and I'll let Archie run for review.
Other questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
You want another question?
We have an in-camera session, so motion to go in camera. Callahan and Campbell, all in favor? Carried.